Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Sorry I've been gone, I've just been busy painting, really. But we're starting out here with a painting tutorial for our Hulk Lord scheme. And I'm starting out with the ash gray overspray over the black, as usual. And then our base color will be alien purple. And we're not going all the way opaque with it, but we're just wanting to create that fade. I mostly go opaque with it, probably like 75%. But I just like the way that purple look. It's like nice and vibrant. But yeah, for this model particularly, it's going to be a display model. So halfway through the video, I'll show you how I paint the display piece and how I made it. Or I won't show you how I made it, but I'll show you unless y'all want to see content like that. But I 3D printed and modeled it and designed it a 50mm display with like a banner behind him with his chapter logo on it. Just something cool for this commission. But the next step currently is dry brushing with Warlock Purple. It's more of a pink, and I'm doing more of a wet dry brush because it'll add like streaking to it rather than the really fine noise that you get with the really dry brush. And I kind of like that look, especially over this purple, because it'll create a cool looking texture, because I'm wanting to go more weathered and grimdark with it. But yeah, as you can see, that's where we're at so far. So the next thing, I just added a little white to that Warlock Purple, and I'm just stippling it to create that texture on there for the chip look. And I'm just stamping it on anywhere where it makes sense, where I think his armor would get dinged up, you know, on his knees, his shins, the shoulder, his backpack. Make him look like he's been at war. And then I do a second pass and I add a little bit more white to it, so it makes it a little bit more sharper. And then I'll come back with a Necromancer Cloak, which is a charcoal gray color. And I'll stamp that on top of that just to get that definition and to break it up a bit, just to add something interesting mainly that I think would look cool with the color scheme. And stippling's got to be like one of my favorite things to do, especially for like a weathered painting. But next I'm going to be using oil paints. This is red ochre. And this is my artscape. I bought like a whole kit of these paints, this oil paint on Amazon, like super cheap. I think I got it for like 20 bucks or 25 bucks or something. But it's really good because it dries super fast compared to some of the other oils that I got. But I just do a 1-to-1 mix with spirits and create basically a wash on it. And I mainly want to leave this in the cracks and stuff, and so I'll use a dry sponge. I don't put any spirits on it because it'll water it down and it'll get in the cracks when you try to wipe it. But next I'll use this color as a highlight color for the rust look, and I think it gives it, you know, it breaks it up. Not only does it break it up, but it adds to the color scheme overall, the whole look of the model. You know, it just adds a little bit more detail to it. But I'll do the same thing. I'll just use a dry sponge and wipe that away as well. So that's what we're looking like now. We got our rust on there on top of that purple. Next we'll be basing all the metallics, and so I'm using rough iron as the first base layer. And the rough iron, you know, it adds a more weathered look whenever I do like the dry brushing of the other metallics, so lighter shining silver and stuff over it. And I think that really, you know, is a cool effect. For his insignia on his chest, you know, I'll base that with the rough iron, but I'll go back over it with a Necromancer gray just to have that rough iron undertone, but also have that rough gray like outline on top of the whole thing. Also base the guns with a charcoal gray too. And then here I'm just using weapon bronze just to add a little bit of sheen to his trim work on his shoulder pads. And then right here I'm just dry brushing over that insignia with a white, so that whenever I go over it with the gray, it'll catch that white. I guess I could have mixed the gray in with the white and just did it in one step, but then again, this is you know, the first time I'm painting a Hulk Lord scheme, so I was mainly experimenting with it. But with the end result, I like the way it looked, so. And we're just catching, you know, all those raised areas on the insignia with the charcoal gray. I think it gives it a cool weathered, burnt look effect. And we took that white and went ahead and dry brushed over the guns as well, the main plating on the guns. So for the barrels and stuff that are based with the weapon, or with the rough iron, I'll go back with the shining silver and just catch the edges of those, just to get that sheen on the weapons. So that's what we're looking like so far. We got all the metallic based, rough iron, shining silver. Then we got the shoulder pads, rough iron with the weapon bronze. And then the insignia on his chest was done a little bit different. Rough iron, white dry with the charcoal gray, I forget the name of it, necromancer. Dry brush over that. Or not really dry, more of a wet. So next I'm using Game Ink Black, and I based the strap on his weapon, and then I'm shading around his neck area just to blend that in a little bit better. And then I'll use the black ink for a more of a wash in the cracks in between the plating on his gun and like the magazines on it. Use it more as a wash. I'll thin it down with a solution that I make with, which is alcohol, isopropyl alcohol and water. It's 91%, and I'll just mix 1-to-1 ratio water with the alcohol, and that's my thinner solution. And then I do a 1-to-1 mix with the ink just to create that wash. So that's what it's looking like. We did the oil. The same oil transitions and in the cracks and crevices on the insignia as well to give us that weathered look. And then now I'm just basing his head with Warlock Purple, and I'm basically doing a layering effect just to create the skin tone, and starting out with my main base with the Warlock Purple, and then using Ultramarine as a shadow. So I'll shade underneath his cheekbone, you know, on the side of his temple, you know, where his head meets the helmet in the back, you know, just implementing shadow into it, because I'm doing a little bit more on this character because it's a display piece. It's not for you know, playing. Then I mix Warlock Purple with the Elven Flesh color, just 1-to-1. And then I'll get the top of his head, you know, I'll hit the top of his brow and then his cheekbone, the tip of his nose, and then I'll just keep doing that. I think I do it like for 4 steps till I eventually have, you know, almost a pure elven flesh, but not quite. I still left it kind of pink, but I also like that look, and I left like half of his face faded with that blue and purple look, and I think it's really, you know, up for interpretation how you want to do it. I mean, you could take it and make it look realistic, but I like the comic book of look effect, you know, the way it looks whenever I get done with just like three highlights with the elven flesh, and eventually using more and more each time. But yeah, that's what he's looking like, and Next, the display model that I made for it was the idea I had for it was rubble on his base, and then have like nameplate for his chapter, and then make a banner piece, and it just has like the banner waving behind him with the Hawk Lord's insignia on the flag itself. But yeah, I just wanted to do something special for this display piece, and so I 3D modeled this and then had it printed. Or I didn't have it printed, I printed it myself on my resin printer. And then, there's a whole process cleaning it up and then sanding it and then priming it, getting rid of resolution lines. And then I'll finally get to the painting process, which is what I'm doing here. But yeah, that was the whole idea I had for it. Because the commission, the guy that I did this for, he plays WH40K, like the Dawn of War game. And I've played Dawn of War before, and I like the look of like the character standing there with their main insignia on a banner piece, and I always thought that was really cool. So I was just implementing that into my design for this base, and yeah, and y'all can see the whole process I'm doing now. I based it with oak brown, and then using a tan flesh for the highlight on the main rock area, and now I'm just using desert yellow as a dry, or more of a wet, on top of the gravel in between. And it's pretty much the same after that, for the color scheme on the metal and the flag piece. The only thing I did different on that was just dry brush with skeleton bone, just to make that cream color on the flag itself. But now I'm just using skeleton bone for the edging on the rocks and stuff. And the metallic's the same thing, same way that I did it. Actually, I added a metallic step. I'm using gunmetal, which is the in-between between rough iron and shining silver. So I just did a little extra on the base. But yeah, the metallics are the same. After I get all the layers done, then I'll go back with the oils, do the same thing with the 2 oil colors I used around the rivets and the base of like where it telescopes out. But and I think the only steps that I don't show is the pigment powder, which I use the old iron oxide by Vallejo around the rocks on the base, because I don't want to get it on my camera lens, because that stuff powders up really bad. But yeah, the process is mostly the same for the base. And then the insignia I'll base with necromancer as well, and I'll just do like a white mix highlight around the edges. This is really fun and different, process whenever you're designing something for a miniature, especially dealing with like measurements and having to find the right scale and size. Since it was a display, I made it a little bit bigger. Standard base size for a ultramarine would be 32 millimeters, but I made it 50 millimeters around, and I just want to do something pretty cool and different. But let me know what y'all think about this type of video, or if y'all would like to see me do 3D printing videos or 3D modeling videos for miniatures or something. I don't know. But I hope y'all enjoy this painting tutorial as an experiment for me, and I really had fun doing this type of project. But if you haven't subscribe, like the video if you liked it, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.